Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be learning how to weld. I have a friend of ours who used to work for Rhino Ag, and he is going to be teaching me how to weld. He's a really great welder, has a lot of years of experience, and I feel this is going to be a good skill for me to learn. Alright, so I have John with me, and he's going to be teaching me today.
Aye.
I just got done laying down my first bead, and now John's basically going to tell me what I did wrong, what I could do better, and then we're going to watch him lay one down. So, right there's my first bead. And what do you think about it, John?
So I'm looking at what Seth's got here, and first thing you should note right here was that was a real hole in there. So he wasn't burning through, he was just welding around a hole. We are using scrap material. This looks about like 16 gauge steel angle iron, and we've just set this up to make a sort of Maltese cross. That gives us one solid pass to play with and then another solid pass in there, and on each face gives us 8 solid passes out of something that amounts to 6 inches of trash to throw away. So you get a big bang for your buck when you put your scrap steel together like this. 6 times 8, 48 whole inches of welding experience before you throw this out, and when you're done with it, it's still recyclable. So a couple things I wanted to say is that where I come from, welding in industry, a lot of guys come in and they don't even weld this well. He clamped directly to his material, which is a fantastic idea whenever it can be helped, and then he started by putting a tack down here, and he actually pulled the weld, which means that in the direction the welder is facing, you're backing away from where you started, which is acceptable. In industry, I've always been told that when you pull the weld, you get less, a less substantial weld because it's not penetrating as well. I haven't had anything break more or less because I pulled a weld rather than pushing it, but I've taught myself to do both ways.
You said as far as me pulling a weld, you know, how I was going like this, bringing the weld along. When you mean pushing the weld, you mean like filling a puddle, you fill in the puddle, you keep going like that, or how do you mean by pushing it?
You'll establish a puddle, and you'll hold that puddle until you see it fill the 2 sides of those marks. And then you'll move forward, and that puddle's going to take a teardrop shape. And then you'll back up, and you'll hold till that puddle fills those 2 marks. And this is how you get that stack of dimes look. And what I was saying about industry is they tell us in industry that when you push, you're more likely to get a concentrated effort in an area. You're more likely to get penetration down to the root because the material is pushing in the direction you're moving, whereas when you're pulling, you're moving away from the material that's pushing out. One thing Seth did that I think he could improve upon is that he tried to float his weld, which looks a lot like this, where he's trying to maintain a specific distance away from the material, which in this case would be about 1/4 inch, 5/16. He's also trying to maintain a linear movement without touching anything. He's also trying to maintain a very tight pattern, and honestly this is a very advanced thing to do. So if I was Seth, I'd find a block or a crate or even weld up a metal stand to put my left elbow on so that I could put my left hand right here, obviously with a glove, so that if I have to float this nozzle, I'm floating it against something that acts like a tripod, my hand. The whole purpose in the 2 parallel lines I've drawn in here, I'm going to move at a speed not to get the perfect weld, but to get the perfect parallel edge to my weld. And somebody might say, well, that's stupid, why don't you just aim for a perfect weld every time? And I would say, well, as much as my brain wants a perfect weld, my muscle memory just doesn't understand how to do it. And so if I'm paying attention to how my arm feels and how I'm moving and how fast it takes me to move to fill this parallel on both sides, and I stop and wait, and I lift up my visor and I actually look at the weld when it's done and confirm that I am in or out for 1 inch or 2 inches or what have you. As I do that, just sort of analytically I'm training my muscles to do what my brain thinks I need to do. And that's what this exercise does, is teaching your muscles to know what your brain expects from it. And so I lay out these two parallel lines, I run a bead, and I check what I did exactly with what happened and make sure that what I expected is what I got. Then I ask myself, if I didn't get what I expected, why didn't I get it? What am I missing here? And I try something new. A lot of this is experimentation at this point. Seth has a great weld here. Nobody's going to go out into the field in his tractor and break a piece off. It's just not going to happen. That's a good weld. But does it look the way Seth wants? Maybe not. So Seth he's penetrating well and he's running his bead well. But he wants to not only say it didn't break, but he wants to grab somebody by the shoulder and bring them over and say, look at that weld. Not only is it proficient, but it looks great. So without further ado, I'll put on my gear and I'll run a bead from here to here. So Seth works on four-wheelers, and I just grabbed some old nasty clutch that was completely demolished so I could put my left elbow on it. What that does for me, since I'm right-handed, is it allows me to get my hand right out here, and instead of floating completely freely, I've got at least my whole body is steady up to my point of my elbow. So if my body's moving around, it's not moving this around. So I've got a lot more control over it as I'm floating. And I'm actually going to weld. I'm going to pull my weld from the outside edge to center. So I'll start by putting a single tack there just so I can know where to stop. I'm going to try and keep my weld inside of these two parallel lines, which are in marker and not in stone. So that might be hard because the marker may not be easy to see, but we'll give it a try. And the point is, I'm going to show the difference between stabilizing my elbow on the left and stabilizing my weld with my hand against something, both of which I can do proficiently, but you'll get an opportunity to see the difference. I'm going to put a tack in the middle. I'm going to start out here. I'm going to try and keep it the same width as that tack, which just ends on the parallel lines there. This one you can see me float it in earnest, and I'll just hold it and float it, and it is really tough to do. If you're trying to teach yourself to weld, floating and weld is not the way to do it, because you're getting massive street cred for doing it, but it's
basically I was teaching myself the hard way.
The hard way, yeah. So I'm going to float it this way, and then I'm going to put my elbow down and float it with my elbow.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody ever told you this, but if you pick a song you like with a beat, I promise you, the one that I use is the Precious Blood of Jesus. So anyways, I'm going to float it. I'm going to use my body as a tripod. I'm going to sing. And actually, your weld looks better than mine.
I was going to say floating.
It's tough. It's been a long time since I had floated weld. So I'm floating. And I'm just moving at a rate right now that fills that parallel line. My only object is to fill that parallel line.
This right here, I basically weld like this and cut. Or yeah, you push.
Yep, or you can pull it. I'm not a purist. You're gonna hold your trigger down and keep it down, and you're gonna zigzag across or go back and forth in line with that weld.
Yeah, so basically, right here, I want to go like this. I'm gonna make a pile, go up, and then back.
Yes.
And then up.
Yep.
And then back like that.
Yep. Exactly. Do put a tack on this end and a tack on that end so it doesn't work out of place while you work on it. definitely well penetrated. Now you got to pay attention to your meter, the speed you're moving, and that's where you sing.
Just kind of,
yeah,
like, you know, every 1, 2, 1, 2.
Yep, that'll work.
Okay, so then I'm gonna try and finish this off doing the same thing but in reverse.
Yep. Okay. So you. Okay, let's change this one thing. Come over here and watch. If I do it like this, I know I'm welding something because sparks are coming out, but I'm looking at the back side of that cup. I'm going to turn it just a little bit so I can actually see this wire hitting the material. Now I can see my weld and I can see where I'm applying the material. There I did an angled zigzag across.
You say you're kind of stitching.
I would be lying if I told you that I'm a better welder than you.
You just have more practice.
You just have more practice. You have welded proficiently. You're as good a welder as I am. Two pieces of metal are going to stay stuck together forever. So. There we go. Yeah, that was good. Now stop and look at that real quick. That's a good looking well.
1, 2, 1, 2. So
and that's acceptable.
Goes up, or
it's up to you. It's a good looking well.
So basically, it all depends on. At this point, it depends how far I go back and forth every time. If I want to get it tighter, but also get it to stand up more, I can just go 1, 2, 1, 2.
Yes.
1, 2, instead of doing, because I was doing like 1, 2.
Yep.
If I just speed it up.
Experiment with it. You can change the speed you're moving. You can change the distance you're moving. You can change the weave you're using. You can change the amount of material that's coming out of the gun. You can change the amount of gas that's coming out of the gun. You can change the speed of the material coming out of the gun.
All right, so John has now left. He's got a few different things that he needs to go do and take care of, but he basically looked over my welding techniques. He showed me some different ways to lay welds down. He drew me several graphs here showing different welding methods, and he basically just told me that I do have the concepts down. He just wants me to practice so I can get very proficient at it. Here's one that he laid. He was moving a lot shorter and faster, and then this one I was moving longer and slower there. As you can tell, I was pushing there and then I was pulling the weld there. So right there is my first weld, and then he was showing me some welding there. And then right there also, he was showing me different welding methods. All in all, he knows a lot about welding techniques. He is a great resource for me. I know this was a different type of video. I might, depending what you guys think of, I might have more, I might have less, but it is a different type of video. But I feel like, even though, you know, say I'm just a farmer or I'm just a carpenter or I'm whatever, you can always advance your skills outside that area. That is all for today's video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.